Welcome to the Beauties Podcast, where we talk about everything you need to know about women's sports. From the grassroots to the pros, we got it all. Today on the show, we talk about Ashleigh Barty's incredible performance, the PHF All-Star Game, and our thoughts on sports betting. Here are your hosts, Addie and Cowie.
Oh man, we are into episode 10.
I know, 2.5 months.
This is crazy.
2.5 months.
Had our first official sound check today. We got the PHF going on in the background.
Yeah.
We got producer in the studio. We're flying. Episode 10's a big one.
It's like going to school. It was like, oh, you guys were doing good, but you could do this better.
Yeah.
But so we're probably sound mint today.
This up a little bit. That's good, but we'll do this.
Yeah. No, good to be back.
Yeah, absolutely. After even thinking about this week, the Olympians are off.
Yep.
They're in Beijing.
Mm-hmm.
We just finished the Australian Open.
Yes, we
the
did.
Scotties have started.
Yep.
Not round 2, but tournament 2 of the LPGA. The PHF is playing on in the background. Like WNBA free agency frenzy is still going on until February 1st. Like, holy shit.
I know. And wasn't it fun to watch in the Olympics, everyone getting on the planes? Like, I follow a handful of them on Instagram. I'm not going to lie. Like, the swag. Hello, Lululemon.
I was going to say the same thing.
Like, Lululemon's never looked so good as it does now.
Every single time I see an athlete, they're in a different outfit.
Okay.
I'm like, are you kidding me?
I know. Okay, Kristen Campbell, she did she must have put everything on her bed that they got. And it was 2 beds worth of stuff. Yeah.
Wow.
I also saw Hillary Knight on TikTok showing what she was packing. And she essentially said that you need shoes, socks, underwear. And then the rest of your kit is there when you get there, which is
unbelievable. Who are they sponsored by this year? Team USA.
Good question.
I haven't even looked into that because I've been obsessed with the Lulu stuff.
It looks so good.
The jackets, and then they've got so many, the players must just be through the roof pumped about this year.
I know, and that would be my dream. Someone else to tell me what to wear every day, because I make poor choices daily.
Yeah.
This fits. It's clean.
And the combinations will always look good together.
Right?
So it's like, here's 2 bags of things.
Doesn't matter what you pick.
Always look good.
Yeah. Doesn't matter what you pick. It's okay. It all looks fine.
And they had some type of shoe. They were all wearing the same shoes too. I just think our Canadian Olympic team looks fire this year.
I agree.
So good. So yeah, it's going to be really exciting. Everything essentially starting in 4 days.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
4 days.
We were looking at that on the TV, right? That's going to be the biggest challenge, is the timing of things and the time of day for us to get to watch. But I'm excited. I love the Olympics.
PVR will be full.
Yeah, well, we switched over because our internet was dogging, and now it's fantastic. And so we only have 4% use on there. So, and we can delete The Bachelorette from my wife and record the Olympics. It's fine.
Got to stay up to date.
You
know what I mean? Love Island, you got to stay up to date.
Exactly.
Can't miss an episode.
For sure.
So even thinking of them heading off to the Beijing and all the amazing stuff that's going to come up this next week, ending coming up here as free agency for the WNBA.
For sure.
And so a lot of players have been playing in athlete
AU. Athletes Unlimited.
Yeah, Athletes Unlimited. So that's been really cool to see them still being a part and playing ball and not going all the way overseas and staying home. And honestly, the free agency has just been insane.
Yeah. So, 2 things there. The Athletes Unlimited thing, I think, has a ton of merit when it comes to showcasing athletes, for one. It's a really unique concept. And I think it has all the potential to take off, quite honestly. And it reminds me, I was saying this to you earlier, is that it reminds me of fantasy. I play a ton of Yahoo fantasy sports, and that's the first thing. You wake up in the morning, you check the weather, you check your fantasy, you see who's slumping, who's hot. That's kind of the way that AU works, is it's on an individual basis, and they redraft your teams. And so it promotes you as an individual player to strive for something as well. I think it lends itself potentially into, like I say, fantasy or the area in which we could actually bet on things and stuff like that.
Right.
So yeah, AU, and it is cool that we don't have to get on a bird and fly across, the ocean to play a game you love. So
Yeah, for sure. And it does for the conversation stake of AU, like I agree. It's cool to see them on individual merit, the complete redraft, because it happens in basketball, lacrosse,
yeah,
softball.
yeah,
And the thing I personally like about it is it's like you get paid
hmm
based off your performance. So
yeah,
it's like, let's compete.
yep,
Like, let's be the best. Let's
yeah,
make the most money that we possibly can
yeah,
and still have that team dynamic and still play the sport that you love. Know that if you have a good game,
mm,
you're going to be rewarded for it. I think that that is a really positive message
for sure.
to send out because it's like, let's compete. Let's do
Yeah,
this. Right.
yeah, it's a bit like, I mean, I think it's flown under the radar of a lot of
I
people
agree.
for
I
sure.
agree.
And it is a bit challenging to understand because it doesn't fit like this mold of what we think of sports.
Yeah.
And I found them through social media, and that's kind of where I've started to follow, but we're going to continue to follow that as this year goes on because I think it's always exciting when there's an opportunity that looks as viable as that as another alternative or option for pro athletes.
And
So,
I like your perspective on thinking how close it's going to get into. Like, that is what I feel a progression of it is betting.
totally.
Like, why not?
Totally.
Why not throw some money down on those games because it is a game by game. So
Mhm.
if you're putting money down, you're really putting money down on a player,
For sure.
right?
For
So
sure.
I love the concept and you're right, it has flown under the radar. Like because it
Totally.
doesn't fit the standard
Narrative.
societal
Yep.
flow of sports.
Yeah.
It kind of beats to its own drum. So yeah, no, that was really cool to see. Like Natasha Cloud was
Yep.
there. Like a lot of really big names
For sure.
stayed and played. So that was really cool to see.
Mhm.
And even with the women that are, they decide to go play international, like in Turkey and China, I know are two big
Mhm.
places. Steph Dolson,
Yep.
who has been open about not enjoying going over and playing,
Yes.
is maybe the biggest kind of piece in the free agency rumblings as of right now.
I know we talked about her last week.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, the Chicago Sky I'm losing sleep over it. I'm losing sleep because Steph Dolson has officially declined the
Yeah.
contract to go back to Chicago.
Yeah.
It is now between New York and Seattle. And I think if this is any indication to any other, to the flow of Chicago and what's kind of going on there, um, wow, is Sandy Brondello doing a hell of a job in New York
Mhm.
getting players. And so between New York and Seattle, if I were to put money down, I think she's going to end up in New York solely because Sandy Brondello coached Brittany Griner last year.
Okay, interesting
And
take. Yeah.
yeah, and coached her to a phenomenal year. So I think
Yes.
she has that approach of like, she knows how to coach players like me.
Yeah. Very interesting perspective.
And she just well, they were in the finals together. She knows she's a championship level coach. Not saying that Seattle isn't, because
Yeah.
like let's get real, Seattle's amazing.
Yeah.
She's really in a win-win situation regardless, but she was seen like all over New York with Benijah Laney.
Yeah.
She was and I just think New York, Sandy Brondello is putting in the work. And I see that. And I see that she's coached Brittany Griner and they're
Mhm.
the same. I think that she's going to end up in New York.
Okay, we're back. We need our betting jar.
We need our betting jar.
You didn't
that's
take
right.
you didn't take my bets when I asked about who was going to win the Australian Open, and I would have been emptying this jar.
You would have
But
been.
okay, I see your point. I think that's really good perspective and insight to that, and I hope you're right. That would be exciting.
Yeah. Yeah. I just love how you knew you would have won the Australian
Yeah.
Open. Ashleigh Barty was
Yeah.
absolute fire.
She was wildly good.
I wrote on our Twitter, I was like, she just went into beast mode. Like there was no
Yeah.
other way of explaining. She didn't, she 2 sets every game.
Yeah,
She
exactly.
didn't drop a set.
Didn't drop a set the whole tournament, and when I was looking at that, so she played off today, actually. Well, it's hard to know if it's like today or
2:30
like.
a.m.
Yeah, that was the first thing I did this morning was get up and
Yeah,
watch
me
the
too.
Australian
Me
Open
too.
from 2:30 a.m. But she played Danielle Collins from the U.S., who was ranked 27th in the world. And when I was looking at just the schedule that has gone by the last 2 weeks, even to compare, like to say that she has never didn't lose a set, but she didn't give up. She gave up 21 games in that whole time span. Like Anisimova that we talked about
Yep.
that knocked out Osaka, that was that's just like air quotes here for those of you who are listening, worst set she had, and she won 6-4.
Yeah. Yeah. It's even hard to just wrap your head around how amazing of a feat that truly is, because a lot of what came down to it, and a perspective that I've never really thought of, is time on court. So
Mm-hmm.
the shorter time you're on court, the more
Yeah.
your body's energized, the more time you have to recover.
Yeah, it's like
And
getting that first round bye,
well, exactly.
right? Yeah.
So she was just like in mint condition every single time.
Although, were you shitting bricks today?
Oh,
Because she looked like she was just going to continue to steamroll.
right.
And then Collins got on a roll.
Yeah. She was making her work.
Oh, yeah, that second set she was down 1-5 and then comes back, forces a tiebreak and wins 7-2 in the tiebreak to become she was the first Australian Open champion since 1978 when Chris O'Neill.
I have it up here.
She was in the stands. They kept panning to her.
Oh, I have Yvonne Guglion.
No, that's who gave them their trophies. But the last Australian to win the Australian Open was this Chris O'Neill in 1978.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's insane.
So.
That is insane. Well, this one I have of this Yvonne Crawley woman is introducing, and it's a picture of both her and Ashleigh Barty saying, introducing the only women in the Open era to win their first 3 Grand Slam singles titles in Paris, London, and Melbourne. And Yvonne won in 71, 71, and 74. Like, that's how long ago that happened. And Ash Barty did it.
Yeah, and I think the only thing that she doesn't have on her resume is a U.S. Open championships.
Yeah.
Or title.
What a wild year of tennis. Like 2 teenagers.
Yeah.
Well, I guess in this is now 2022, but in the last little spurt of tennis, the U.S. Open, like Fernandez and Raducanu in the finals, like what is happening?
Well, yeah, I agree. And you think of from a Danielle Collins perspective, I'm like, we've said this before. It's always sucks to lose.
Oh yeah,
it is awful to swallow in the moment. But she's gonna go from being ranked 27th in the world to in the top 10,
right?
And sets herself up to go into some of these next Grand Slams and next tournaments that are happening with like it kind of reminded me, this is funny now. We're going back to like episode 1 or 2 when you talked about that King Richard movie with Serena and Venus Williams. And the very end of that movie, I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but she ends up, Venus, finally goes to Wimbledon and she ends up losing to the number 1 ranked player in the world, but takes a set off of her. And that was the turning point for Venus's career, that everyone was like, okay, this 14-year-old kid at the time. And I feel like, yes, Danielle Collins has gone through university. She's an NCAA champion. It's not the same story, but it reminded me of that.
Yeah.
We're being up 5-1 on Ashleigh Barty is a victory.
Yeah. No,
because she's just that good.
Because she's just that good.
Literally that good.
And she played that good consistently the entire tournament. Like she was just unbelievable, because even Sabalenka, who's ranked 2nd overall, only made it to the 4th round.
Yeah, right after we hit stop recording, she lost last week.
Essentially. Yeah. So even thinking about being in a semifinal, she's against Madison Keys in the semifinals.
Mm-hmm.
Even thinking about how talented you have to be in that match.
Oh yeah. No,
and she wins 6-1, 6-3.
Yep. Yeah, they didn't stand a chance.
Oh, it's just unbelievable to me.
No, it's like when I remember one time we were playing senior hockey in St. Adolphe, Manitoba, and Bridge Laquette was out there, and I blocked a shot, and then I was like, why? Why did that? She's so good. Like compared to me, like you didn't stand a chance. Anyways,
I know.
Same thing.
you're out for like a week because your ankle's broken and
Yeah,
you're like,
literally.
what's
I'm
going
like,
on?
Cool. There's no amount of beer in the dressing room after this that fixes this foot. Yeah.
Fun
So.
fact, when I retired from senior women's hockey, I went to my bag.
Mm-hmm.
4 random beers in there. I think I had like a Coors.
I know, and I'm just gonna apologize right now that probably most of those I bought at some point in your life for you.
100%.
Yep.
You were the culprit, and I just couldn't. They were with me. I put them in the fridge and probably drank them.
There you go. Perfect.
And so, even with like such an unreal tournament in tennis, so last week we highlighted Bailey Dirksen for our prospects.
Yeah.
And like unbelievable. Like if anybody can look at her highlights, this girl is going places. She's amazing.
For sure.
But so then I did the same thing for tennis.
Yeah.
And so Robin Montgomery, an 04, is the 8th ranked junior player in the world from the States. And she won the U.S. Open Tennis Tour in 2021 for both singles and doubles.
Yeah, she's not bad.
And overall has a 74% win rate. 73 wins,
grades.
26 losses in her career. So
Cool.
we found Robin Montgomery, we found highlights. And that was one of the coolest things is they've got full tennis matches of all prospects online.
Oh,
so
right
Robin
on.
Montgomery was easy to find. Like she has a lot of tendencies that I find with Naomi Osaka.
Okay.
Like just plays the court, very defensive.
Yep.
But will run up to the net as soon as she gets the opportunity to. It was very cool watching Robin Montgomery. So yeah, the prospect piece of this has been super fun.
Yeah.
So Robin Montgomery.
We're watching you, girl.
Watching.
Well, I'm going to
wait.
watch it. Addie clearly has
Yeah.
already.
Yeah. As soon as, I was absolutely floored with Ashleigh Barty.
Yeah.
Floored. I couldn't believe she's by far, like, I felt like the gap between first and second, like Barty and Sabalenka, it just went like this. Like, she is so
I would agree.
definite number 1 overall that it's crazy.
Yeah, that wasn't even it was a contest today, but the tournament in itself, it was kind of writing was on the wall. I felt like it was hers to lose. Let's just say that.
It was hers to lose. Exactly. So that was, we said it from the beginning. We knew we need to get a betting jar because
I know I would be richer today. Probably like $2, but
buying beers today.
Oh yeah, what beer am I gonna buy? The tootie you threw in as your bet. Not much.
Strolling down to Smitty's.
yeah, exactly.
So another big win was Danielle Kang, and we
called that.
We called that a mile away. We're like, nope. She's too pissed off from last year. She's coming in hot and then shoots a 17 under, takes it.
Yeah, she's sick of the dreams of the Cordas. And we also had talked about, the only way that you can kind of envision someone else winning is if Nelly Korda, drops a few. And she struggled. She did struggle, not to take away anything from Danielle Kang because she was lights out. But the combination then just put that gap between them.
Yeah. And I was excited to see our Canadian Brooke Henderson end up in the top 3. That was also really good and really encouraging for the beginning of the season.
For sure.
So Danielle Kang, huge win, walked away with 2,000. Oh my God.
We're not talking about our paychecks.
Sneaking beers under the table. I can't see no more. $225,000 was what she won with a purse of 1.5 mil for that. Where they're in Gainsbridge right now.
Yeah.
Finals tomorrow. Purse 2 mil, so a little bit more cash. Lydia Ko.
I know, in the lead, but Kang's on the hunt, man.
Oh, could you imagine back-to-backs?
Well, and it's kind of that same thing, right? It's that momentum, and it's that like hangover is either positive or negative, and we're seeing that with Nelly, right? She's struggling, comes off of that Hilton Grand Vacation tournament, and she's struggling going into this next one, and we see Kang, and this is, it's nice too. I like, we talked about last week where it has that celebrity twist.
Right.
In that first tournament, this is like that first full card
Yeah.
of the LPGA. So
This
Yeah.
is, it's going to be interesting to see tomorrow because Celine Bautier Kang is 9 under. Bautier is 8 under.
Yeah.
So it's really tight,
Mm-hmm.
tight at the top there. So
Yeah.
Lydia Ko was in the mix for a little bit at Hilton Grand's Vacation, but she's been really strong this week. So,
for sure.
but man, oh man,
Golf.
am I rooting for Kang?
Yeah. I know.
Yeah. I love Lydia Ko. I think she's an incredible athlete, back to back.
Yeah, it's not like we're rooting against.
Yeah, no. Absolute beauty. You all walk away with money at the end. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But back to back is pretty cool to say at the beginning of the season.
Super.
So
Would be super good.
that was, and Gainsborough's just such a cool place.
Yeah.
Boca Rico, Florida.
Yeah.
It's,
Although, like, we are living in the frigid north, and it doesn't even look warm there. Like, my perception of Florida is like shorts and cold beers.
Oh, yeah.
They're dressed like they're in toques.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. I didn't check the temperature there, but it doesn't look like what my head says Florida should look.
Right. Yeah,
No?
no.
Sweaty.
I would assume the same. Yeah. Now that you mention that, I never even thought of that. You're
Right?
right. They're in like those puffy jackets
Yeah.
and stuff.
No, it looks like they're golfing in a Canadian fall,
That's
except
so
for
weird.
the grass is green and they're in Florida.
That's very true. Never even thought of that.
Yeah. Maybe they're drinking Mai Tais.
Yeah. They should be drinking Mai Tais. That's what they should be doing. So we still have like the PHF.
Yeah.
So much stuff to talk about. But I think we're actually going
Yeah.
to toss in a question today. We had somebody call in with a really good question, and let's see what we got here.
Let's see what we got.
Hey guys, it's Jacob Hill from Stephenville, Newfoundland and Labrador. Love the podcast. I was curious how professional sports can capitalize on single game betting, and when we live in a world of marketing and live streaming, how can we use that to promote the women's game more for hockey-related revenue? Keep up the great work. Congrats on all success, and look forward to what you have in store in the future.
Now that's a Newfie accent right there.
Right. See?
That's a Newfie. That is a Newfie. So
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Jacob, for taking the time, reaching out to us. For everyone who hasn't utilized the voicemail, speakpipe.com/beautysports is how Jacob did that. So thanks for the question, Jacob.
yeah, really appreciate it. And betting is something that we've talked about for a long time.
We've talked about it in this episode like 3 times already.
Yeah, like we want to throw some money down. And
Yeah.
I've had over the years, and I think he's clearly a hockey guy because that's what he's saying, hockey related revenue,
Yep.
right? But I think it could be used over all sports, all platforms.
Yeah.
And it's, for me, it seems like it's being for some reason it's harder than what they're like, it's easier than what they make it seem. Like they can just add women onto the already established platform,
Yeah.
and then the odds go on the screen. I think it's just the effort of actually doing it.
Yeah. Okay. So I've got a few thoughts on that. I think that we've had a conversation about this in lots of avenues, this whole chicken and egg conversation,
Mhm.
because we've talked about it before, right? 40% of athletes, professional athletes, or athletes in general, let's just say, are women, and 4% of coverage is about women. And so I do lots of stuff, FanDuel, Yahoo. We see now at NHL games with Betway, single game betting just became legal in Canada last year. It's been legal in the US for, I think, since 2018, I want to say.
Right.
But really hard to bet on something that you cannot watch.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's that whole, because here's the thing that I love about betting on sports. I don't do a ton of single game betting. So to Jacob's question, I'm going to kind of miss the point here. But what I love about betting in sports is that it brings sports into a social space. You have a draft with your buddies. Like I'm not a huge NFL follower, but I've done it with my buddies to go over and have beer and hot dogs, to, shoot the shit about what's happened in the last week. It gets excitement into the sport. You start following individual athletes. When we get into single game betting, you start, because you can bet in the game, right? You can bet during that physical game. So by allowing betting or promoting betting, you're promoting fans, but without a platform for people to watch, neither of those can happen.
That is exactly bang on, because even now they're putting the odds on TV for betting right before the game. So, but
Right.
that's there. It's there for them to see.
Yep.
It's there for you to watch. So it always goes back to that exposure. What's going to come first, the
Mhm.
fans or the exposure?
Yep.
And you're right. Like I've been a part of fantasy for 3 years now,
Yeah.
and I follow the players that I have.
Yep.
And it kind of keeps you in it, but it is the camaraderie piece of it.
It totally is.
It is getting in touch with your buddies about and chirping them, being like,
Yeah,
"You
like-
suck,"
and
like,
also
"You suck tonight."
Well, yeah,
Or-
or like set your
Yeah.
alarm because
Yeah.
you forgot to refresh your roster.
Yeah.
Like you have players who aren't they're on your should be on your IR and they're in your active roster.
Yeah.
Right. I
So,
agree.
And I think that it could be, well, as it is for male sports, it should be across the board for female sports. But no one is going to bet on something, first of all, that they don't have any information on. Like, at
Mhm.
least the odds, you kind of have knowledge of the league or what teams are
Yep.
playing and who's going up and who's going down, whatever the case may be.
Yep.
But also just the ability to, go on an app.
I know. The
Go-
ease.
The
The
I've
ease.
set my roster in meetings.
I
I have 1000% set my roster
yeah.
as I'm sitting, being professional.
I have
It's-
text colleagues about who they dropped or should we make a trade in, and not that anyone needs to really hear that on a podcast, but it's fact. I do. Yeah, of course, because it's so easy.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you?
So I think the bigger thing is we have to, because like you think about Jacob, for instance, like he's a sports guy.
Mm-hmm.
Sports are sports. He's gonna bet. He clearly does. Fun fact about Newfoundland: they do not have casinos.
You mentioned that a while ago, and that's
Yeah.
shocking, but also speaks volumes to why
Exactly.
this matters.
Exactly. And I think like sports are sports. Like the PHF All-Star Game's on right now. The schedule's been set for whatever, a couple postponements, but like if there could be more face to it or and more attention drawn to it, people would be more inclined to put money into it and
Mhm.
get their friends involved, and
Mhm.
then the spiral effect
Yep.
happens. Like
Yeah.
you're bang on in that. So it's kind of like we're sitting on like a teeter-totter.
Well, someone's going to pick it up, right? We've seen, and it's this interesting strategy too, because there's pushes around getting women into sports betting, and then we're missing the push of allowing sports fans to bet on mainstream women's sports. I say that as a blanket statement, and it's not definitive. You can bet on tennis, you can bet on some but it's not in this ease of a platform
No.
that's like Yahoo or
Yeah.
FanDuel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, I don't know if we gave a
We didn't really.
definitive answer to anything for that, but it is interesting that it is a conversation that people are talking about, because you're right. Like if you had a group of buddies and the PHF is on, or WNBA finals was huge this year, there's
Mhm.
no reason for that not to be a
Yeah.
huge betting platform for them. Same thing with March Madness.
Yeah,
They talk
well,
about that with like male sports, with the men's side being one of the most betted events of the year.
yeah, and it was
with-
funny because I was this is a blank. I don't know why. Sometimes there's I have nothing on it. It's just black. Sorry, everyone who's listening. I'm closing my iPad because it's just sitting there. But the March Madness is a great. I love that example because it was up. I read from 2019 to 2021, it was up 103% of people who filled out women's brackets again, we can talk back to Sedona Prince, and there's a whole nother highlight of
Right.
that. But there was also a statistic too that in the 2019 US Open, the women's singles final actually outperformed
Mm-hmm.
in terms of viewership the men's and had betting and stuff on it. So it's back to that whole there are examples of why it makes sense, A, to add more opportunity to view, but also to add additional channels to bet and have camaraderie with your buddies.
Yeah, like if you have the information, I think that people that bet on sports wouldn't be like, oh well, this is a women's game. It's like, no, we have the information. I feel like this is where I want to put my money. I want to watch.
Well,
Like,
I've done it for years, and I don't say, well, I'm not doing that because it's men's.
yeah, exactly.
I
So
love sport. Yeah, I love sports. I would bet on more than I
yeah,
should, really. But again, like if we have a jar here, if I'm only betting a toonie,
yeah.
although I might have thrown you some big bucks on Ashleigh Barty.
Well, yeah, no, you should have, because she was on absolute fire. So
Mhm.
I think it's a great question. It's encouraging to know that people are thinking about it, and kind of in the context of like, why not? Why is this
Yeah,
not more
yeah,
out there,
for
right? Why
sure,
is this not
for
something that we
sure.
talk about more? So that was super interesting. So if you were to bet on the PHF All-Star Game right now, who would you bet on?
I can't tell the teams apart. Just oh
That's
jeez.
a
No,
that's a
I
good
I
one.
don't know. You know, it's an odd structure. So the way that this is structured, it's a little mini showcase. Obviously we talked about it's based out of Buffalo now, not Toronto. The jerseys are what they are, and they are, as we thought, very difficult to tell the difference on the ice. It just looks like a color swatch skating around. But
Yeah.
interesting structure. So there's 3 mini games. They are 10 minutes. The first period is 10-minute 5-on-5. The second period is 5 minutes of 3v3, and then there's a shootout, and I didn't catch after that. They must have some goals for and against strategy because it's, first game and then you have the second game versus the loser of the first game, and then the, winner of the first game plays in the third game, this little mini showcase,
Right. So
and then cumulative goals.
yeah, all goals scored, including the
Shootout.
shootout,
Yeah.
count towards the final score. Um, Tiebreakers or goal differential goals, total goals scored, and goals scored in 5-on-5 and 3-on-3. If
If they need
tiebreaker,
to
if it's
get
a
there.
three-way tie,
Okay.
if it needs to be. So yeah, it's
Who
it's almost like the PHF is trying to make a stance on everything this year. Like when it
Mhm.
comes to the jerseys, when it comes to the All-Star, because when the All-Star game was announced,
Mhm.
it's like, okay, well, you have All-Star team A and All-Star team B, and they line up on the blue lines and they play a game, and you
Yeah.
in the intermission, you do a little maybe fastest lap or
Yeah.
hardest shot or stick handling,
Yeah.
whatever. Um, and it always just seems like they're trying to shake it up. They're trying to shake up the way that the traditional,
Shake it off.
yeah.
Shake it up. Yeah, I agree.
The jerseys, the way it's played,
Yeah.
bringing it's not uncommon to bring in the celebrity coaches or whatever, but
Yeah.
it's different in the way of normally they would bring coaches that are participating in the
Yeah.
league to be also a part of the
Yeah.
um
Yeah,
a part of the All-Star
there's
game.
lots of things. I
There's
don't we don't need to be super critical. We know what we don't love about this process. I'm excited that they have an opportunity as players to play with people within their league and showcase the talent of this league. I'm not sure that this is necessarily maybe the best way, but it's unique for them. I don't know if we need to recreate the whale, but they are attempting to.
That's
So
what I mean. Like
cool.
not
Yeah.
not thinking about being critical, like just thinking like they are literally trying
Yeah,
to
they are trying to
shake it
mold the
up.
whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah, they're trying to shake up the whole thing.
Yeah, they did, which is nice because we did talk about this. They did add your local club team. Not that sounds bad. The team you play for is on their shoulders, so they do have
Yeah.
like their team representation on there. But it is very, very, very difficult to tell them apart.
Yeah, no, for sure. For the people that are watching on YouTube,
Oh,
that's why we keep moving our head back, is because we have the games playing live behind us here. And so, yeah, we've seen quite a few shifts off. It seems as though one mini series ends and the next one just starts, and it's just going to keep
mm-hmm.
rocking the whole way through. So, they also did introduce the official mascot of the PHF called Goalie Tender. You see this little guy? You
No,
see this little gaffer? Goalie Tender, the official mascot of the PHF.
looks like a cotton ball. What
It
is
does
that?
look like a cotton ball with goalie pads on. And
Yeah, there's so many interesting things because even with the PHF, so if you go on PHF, well, we've talked about their shop, but if you go on their shop, I find it very interesting that they actually have a PHF USA logo and a PHF Canada logo.
yeah,
Like, what other league? The NHL has the NHL, the NBA has the NBA, the MLB has the MLB.
that's like they're
Why? What
they're
is that?
shaking it up. They're shaking the like that's what it's such an interesting thing to talk about because is this going to are they trying to create essentially their own hockey identity? Because honestly, like Athlete United did the
Yeah,
exact same thing. They just shook the whole thing up, came up with an
true,
entirely different platform,
true.
did everything completely different. And it seems as though the PHF may be
En
take
route of that.
on route of trying to
Mm,
because it seems as though everywhere that we look, because we're pretty heavily immersed in
mhm,
hockey, right?
yeah.
Like the PWHPA, we know the next showcase in Ottawa, and we know what we can expect from a showcase.
Mhm,
Um, this was like, okay, well, I've never heard of there being 3 teams of 10 in an all-star game. Like,
mhm.
never.
Yeah, it
Right?
is.
So that's where it's like you almost you're learning a new identity of a league that's being created.
I mean, the NHL a little kind of is now taking because you know they've taken some interesting routes just for viewership and stuff of their All-Star game, right? So they've got it in divisions.
Right?
So I mean, I guess when I think about it in that way, maybe they aren't necessarily recreating the whale as much as I thought they were. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't wanna harp on them.
I don't think we're harping on them. I don't think we're harping on them at all. I think we're just talking about it because I think it's interesting for people to learn about the different dynamics of the two. It's
Yeah.
not saying one's better than the other. It's just saying like this is the approach that the PHF is taking and this is the approach the PWHPA is taking. And
Yeah.
they're very different because even looking like with them signing their deal with the Upper Decks
I like
cards,
that.
this is unreal that um
I do like that.
they launched their first kind of pack
All-Star
of
pack.
the All-Stars,
Yeah, I do
which
I
I think
really
is
like that touch.
really cool.
For sure.
And they look sharp. They look
Yeah.
really good.
They do. Yeah, I was excited to see that. I saw that on Instagram, I think. I was excited to see that. I think that is really exciting for anyone who is a fan of hockey.
Right.
Um, we'll see. It's again the coverage because when you look at we saw some stuff on social media where even with the WNBA you can only buy there's only like 8 or 9 players whose jerseys are in their shop.
Yeah.
And so, like, and I hope I haven't done enough looking into it, but is the PHF going to run every single player in the PHF this year? Or is it going to be another? Obviously, the All Star will be very limited because that doesn't include their entire teams.
Yeah. I have no idea cuz total the All-Star game has 37 players.
Yeah, that would make
So
sense.
if they're just going to run the 37 players this year, kind of get it going, kind of
Yeah,
get it moving, that would make sense to me. For sure.
we shall see.
We shall see. We shall buy some.
Yeah, we shall buy some. As long as
Absolutely.
I wonder, yeah, we'll have to do some digging into that. Where can we find them? Superstar
Yeah.
Sports down the road, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have
Who
to find
knows?
those for sure. But getting back into action after the All-Star break, they're Connecticut and Boston, Buffalo and Minnesota again, February 5th and February 6th.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be interesting again. Essentially, Battle of the Titans, and then, Buffalo and
Yeah.
Minnesota trying to gain points, trying to get back into the standings for, any chance of a playoff run here.
Yeah, for sure.
Getting into February, you're really focused on
Cutting her
points.
close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're really focused on points. So I think that that's really, a big aspect of them. Toronto, but not back into action until the 13th. So
That's a big break, especially because they had the postponement before
absolutely.
this All-Star game.
Absolutely. So and the Riveters.
No
Same
kidding.
thing. Yeah. So that's going to be from a coaching perspective.
Yeah.
That's tough because I thought the same thing about the Olympics with essentially them flying out last week.
Mm-hmm.
You have to get accustomed to the time change.
Yeah.
You have to train in that atmosphere. You have to do so many things, and really, you have like a week.
Yeah.
It's like coaching staff. You have a week to figure this out,
Yeah.
and that's
It's a quick
hard when it's
turnaround.
the complete opposite side of the world.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? Not just waiting 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
Where still you have to think if you're the Toronto coach or if you're the Riveters coach, like you have to be thinking, okay, well, we get it. Toronto's leading the league right now, so they have a bit more of a buffer, but if you can't think that way.
No,
You can't think that
You
way.
definitely cannot.
So that'll be
oh my God, the goalie is shooting on the other goalie. Oh, and she scored. Wow.
she's rocking Aves right now.
Yeah.
Wonder what the 70 on her hat means.
Who knows?
So
Um,
so a goalie just went down and tossed on some middies and the Buffalo Buttes
Yeah.
going down.
But I do want that reminded me of something when you talked about the Olympics there of two things, I guess, curling. But interesting with Curling Canada, I don't know how much you follow of Curling Canada, but
Mhm.
with Curling Canada, so there's now the mixed doubles. Remember that's Caitlin Laws had won with John Morris in the
Yeah.
last Olympics. And because of the pandemic this year, it was supposed to be in Portage la Prairie, and they had to cancel it. And so, for the first time that I'm aware of, they didn't play to win. Where we saw the trials in Saskatoon, where
Right.
Jen Jones won to get to go to the Olympics, they didn't have that opportunity. So, Curling Canada made their selection of who was going to go in the mixed doubles. And so, two of like the leading team is fiance pairing, and the girl plays on Jen Jones' team, and the boy plays on the men's team. And so they're ineligible to play in the mixed doubles because they're already going there for the 4-person curling.
Right.
And then they didn't select the number 2 ranked at the time team, and they ended up choosing Rachel Homan and John Morris. And so interesting to me I'm sure Curling Canada has had their reasoning. Like if you're going to select 2 people who are going to give you the best chance to podium at the Olympics, John Morris has won with Caitlin Laws. Rachel Homan has been there, didn't have a great showing last time. She got an opportunity. But really interesting because everything else we've seen, you play to get there.
You play to win. That's
And you just wonder like what tension that creates in the curling. Same as like our hockey world is small, the curling world is small.
Wow.
What kind of tension does that create as they go into the Olympics? I hope not, but
The criteria. What was the criteria of the selection? That's where my head goes. Was it based off of current
well, it wasn't
Play-
based off of rankings. That's
Yeah,
the
that's-
interesting part. So-
previous? Yeah.
So
That's
they obviously like chose based on their feeling of their best chance, I'm assuming, to medal in Beijing.
wow.
Yeah,
That-
interesting.
I agree with you on the sense of if you're in the running for that spot and then it's just chosen, that's a
It's
tough
hard. And it-
pill to swallow.
yeah, and it also then okay, that announcement came out that Rachel Homan and John Morris were selected to be our mixed doubles team.
Mhm.
And then right after that, what ended up is that Curling Canada then said Rachel Homan's team, who was supposed to be in what is now the Scotties that's happening right now in Thunder Bay.
Yeah.
Their team was now, because Rachel was gone, now they're not eligible to go. And then like the next hour, they come out and say, okay, we're actually going to have the same expanded field that we had last year. And we're going to have 3 wildcard teams, and the Homan team is one of them. So like what a mind boggle of
Whoa.
a day that was for those girls, because now you have, so their skippers off to the Olympics. So Emma Miskew, their third, is now going to be their skip. in Thunder Bay. But I was like, yeah, you're not going because your skip got chosen to go to the Olympics. And just kidding, you're going, but you're not Team Ontario. You're a wild card team.
Yeah. That is
Oh my.
unheard of.
Oh, I was like,
That is
stressy.
wow.
I don't know.
That is crazy.
For sure.
Yeah, no, that is the criteria I think should have been stated beforehand, but then at the end of the day, like they're curling Canada. They
Well,
just say,
yeah, and
hey,
I did do that in my head of like the comparison to how we had the Canadian women's team was centralized, and it's not like we see the criteria there.
oh yeah, no,
Right.
for
So people got
sure.
let go who knows. And so there's a selection, but you had to
Yeah.
compete for the selection.
Actually,
And so then like, yeah, okay, they always compete, I suppose. And
Yeah.
Curling Canada has watched all of these teams and players and felt like that was the best choice, which
wow,
I don't know.
wow, just going to the Olympics.
Yeah.
There
going to
you
the
go.
Olympics.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow. Scotty is just starting up, which is always a great tournament to watch. So
Yeah, I've had that on the TV. I
yeah,
love curling.
it's so for somebody from an outsider's perspective that doesn't get curling, I can understand where they kind of come from. The like, oh, this is kind of boring and whatever.
Oh my. No.
I completely disagree.
Me too.
All those people, I would challenge you to sit down and learn the game because it is phenomenal.
Oh, and I would also challenge you to try it if you ever have an opportunity.
That's
Because
very
it
true.
is not an easy thing to do
Yeah,
by any stretch of the imagination. So
yeah.
I love
No,
it.
I agree. So much like next time we meet,
Mm-hmm.
there will be Olympic action.
Yep.
The free agency in the WNBA will be over. We'll
Yes.
find out who the champion of the PHF All-Star Game is. I always find it funny when people are like, oh, there's not any women's sports. Like, where is it? I'm like,
Yeah.
I cannot keep up, people. It is everywhere.
It is everywhere.
It is awesome.
Yeah, sometimes you got to find it, but it's there.
Yeah, no, you gotta look, but it's there
Yeah, no,
for sure.
Olympics is exciting. I'm excited
Yeah,
to
me too.
have all of those sports and get to watch some different things and talk about it with you and make sure everyone stays informed. So
Yeah, so on our platforms, we're going to be discussing how we're going to keep everybody up to date with everything going on with the Olympics.
Yep.
So keep an eye out for that because that's going to be really exciting to watch. Not only the main events, but really diving into the nitty gritty ones that don't get as much TV attention.
absolutely.
So that'll be awesome.
You bet.
So Cowie, final words.
Yeah, final words. If this is your first episode, thanks for joining us here at Beauty Sports. If you've come back for another week, thank you. We appreciate you. Hopefully you enjoy listening to Addie and I ramble every week. Make sure if you have an opportunity, follow us on social media. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, and on YouTube at Beauty Sports Talk, on Twitter at _Beauty Sports, and our voicemail, speakpipe.com/beautysports.
Thanks so much, everybody, and we'll see you next week.